And now we move on to our next item, which is the panel discussion on the theme of flip your attitude, show your gratitude. We have Sister Bijal who will facilitate this session. Dr. Bijal Sisodia Shah hails from Leicester. She has held multiple center and regional roles in the organization and has been involved in numerous international and UK health awareness projects. In her professional life, she is an award-winning dental surgeon. Bijal has served for numerous years at the Sri Satya Sai General Hospital in Prashanti Nilayam as part of the International Rota of Dentists. I will now pass you over to Sister Bijal. Thank you, and Saira.
Thank you. Jai Sairam, everybody. It's such a lovely day to be here connected with you all and with such a beautiful topic of gratitude. First of all, our most humble pranams at the lotus feet of our beloved Lord Swami. We, Swami, surrender to you, and we are so grateful to you that we can be together today. Now, when we talk about gratitude, the first thing that comes to my mind is to be thankful. And having that sense of appreciation. We are on this beautiful journey of life, and you know, it has many ups and downs, one of which we're all going through together. You know, Swami has often told us that happiness is the interval between two pains. And I think more now than ever, we're looking within ourselves and taking those important moments to just pause, press that restart button. But is it so easy to flip our attitudes and show gratitude? We're so lucky today that we have an array of panelists for you, and I'd love to introduce each one of them for you today. So the first panelist we have is Bravina Auntie. Now, she used to be my SSE guru, so it brings me great joy to introduce you to her. She came into the Sai fold over 40 years ago, and she joined SSE, formerly known as Bal Vikas, back in 1986. And she's been involved in SSE ever since then, as a teacher, coordinator on center levels, regional levels, national coordinator levels. And she's been involved with so many national projects, helping to train SSE gurus. On a personal level, she has 2 children and has worked in a bank for over 30 years, and just recently has retired. She enjoys reading, baking, gardening, sewing, and craft work. Our next panelist is Jenny. I have known Jenny and worked with her for a while at our homeless shelter back in Leicester. And she's known Swami since 2016. She's an active worker in the organization, and she's had several roles in the spiritual wing. Jenny is an advocate of meditation and Rudram chanting, and she loves to sing bhajans. Her day job consists of working part-time for a building society and part-time designing and illustrating, and she's currently working on a children's book. Our next panelist is Gayatri Auntie, and how she completed her Masters in English Literature from Anantapur. She was born in a Sai family and very lucky to be trained in classical Carnatic music, and has had the opportunity to be part of the bhajan group back in college. She's married to Dr. Vijay Nadila, who is an ardent devotee and has 2 children. She too dedicates her time as an SSE guru in Halifax. So let's start today's discussion. So I think let's start with yourself then, Gayatri Auntie. Why is it so important to have gratitude? Is it really essential to our daily life? Please enlighten us on your thoughts.
Sai Ram, everyone. I'm really lucky to be here today. When Manisha asked me if I could be a panelist, at the beginning was a bit doubtful because it was a very busy weekend this week. But then if you can't make time for Swami, then I think there's no way I can talk about gratitude. When I heard the topic, then I straight away said, I think I should come in, because our personal lives, we're always busy and we can't take time out for Swami. Then there is no point in me saying that I'm a Sai student and whatever comes with it, you know. So thank you so much, Manisha Ben, for involving me. And of course, to see the face of Bijal, so nice, so always smiling, so pleasant. And that made my day. Bijal, thank you very much for being so sweet. All right, now coming to gratitude. It is a very big topic. It can be spoken on for days and days. And for me, gratitude is very simple. Gratitude is, of course, saying a prayer, saying thank you to God every day, which is good. For me, gratitude is showing it more in actions rather than just saying it to God that, you know, I'm really grateful to you. Thank you so much. That is good. For me, it is more for action, like teaching my children how important it is to be grateful, not only to Swami, to the parents, and to teachers and to society around them, because these days children are a little bit different from my generation, if I could say that. They do have a different kind of attitude. I don't say it's wrong, it's different. So it is easy for them to get drawn away from the fact that they've got loads they have to be thankful for, because it's always a comparison on social media and stuff, you know, that they've got more and we've got less, or somebody's got better house or a car. But then we, in that rat race, we forget that gratitude is simple as being content with what is God given us, happy, and then giving back to the society and making people less fortunate than us feel grateful. And for me, that is what I am. I'm grateful for Swami. In every walk of my life, Swami helped me. I'm grateful every second of my life. And I pass it on to my Bal Vikas children, my own children. And hopefully in future, they will be able to practice it, put it in practice, and be grateful to Swami for everything that we've got in our lives.
Absolutely. I think in the world that we are living in at the moment, gratitude is one of the strongest pillars we really need in our lives. And it can mean it can mean an array of things for so many different people. And it's so lovely that you share your view on what gratitude actually means to you and why you feel like it's so important in your perspective as a mother, as an SSC guru. And so it kind of leads me to my next question. And if I could pose this next question to Pravina Auntie. What gives you your sense of gratitude? And I'm sure you must have, you know, many experiences. So please do share with us what gives you your sense of gratitude.
Wow, what gives me my strength of gratitude? Do you know, I've never thought of gratitude on its own before. It's only since we had the topic for this. So what gives me my sense of gratitude? And I've come to the conclusion it's knowledge and faith. And that is through that I'm not alone. There's a higher power looking after me. And that gives me courage, that gives me self-confidence and appreciation of everything. And I think we're all Sai followers and we follow his teachings or try to follow his teachings. And once we start doing it, we forget of sort of gratitude or being thankful, but it becomes so much part of our life. So for me, I think that my sense of gratitude comes from following Swami's teachings. And even when things aren't going the way that we want them to go, and we sort of feel that, is he really there? Is he looking after you? I'd like to share a little story that happened to me a little while ago. So some time ago, I was on my way to work, and my car came to a stop on the M1. Now, this stretch of the M1 has 4 lanes. It was peak time in the morning. So you can imagine all 4 lanes, sort of lorries and everything thundering past. And for a few meters on that road, there's no hard shoulder. And guess where my car stops? At that particular spot. Now, just a little bit of a background to this. It was a fairly newish car, and I didn't have any recovery because I only use it for town driving. And all members of my family had access to it, and they used to drive it, but none of them ever filled it up. So when I got into the car, I didn't check for petrol, and I got stuck on the motorway. So I called my husband, and he said, yep, he'd come on my way. But I was on the M1, so it was some distance away. A few minutes later, this recovery car pulls up in front of me, nothing on it, and two men walk over to me, and they ask me if I've broken down. And I say, yes. I'm really embarrassed by this. I dare not say to them that I've run out of petrol. And they said, would I like them to take me to the nearest service station? So of course, I'm grateful, because sitting there waiting for my husband to arrive, I've noticed, even if he comes on this part of the motorway, there's no way he's going to be able to fill up the petrol, because the lorries are thundering past. My petrol thing is on my side, so you couldn't stand out there. So I'm very grateful. I was sweating, and by this time they asked me, and I sort of saying, yep, appreciate it. Don't know who they are. So they put the ropes in. They asked me to get into the delivery truck, on the recovery truck. And I got in, but my thought is, am I ever going to see my car again? Am I ever going to see my belongings again in the car? They take me to the service station. And then they asked me, did they want me to take to the petrol pump? And I said, no, my husband sorted that. They leave me there, and I'm sort of looking at them, and I'm thinking, who does this sort of thing? And I sort of say to them, leave me your details, I'll sort something out, because I didn't have any cash on me. But they just walk away. So they told me to the services, leave me there, and then they walk away. And later on, I sit there, and I think, wow, who in this day and age does that? There's no name on the recovery truck. I don't know who they are. And then it sort of hits me that there is this higher power who has so many forms that he will always be there. All I have to do is my own duty. And for this higher power, I am grateful. And that's my sense of gratitude, that anything I do, anything good or bad, that he has a purpose for me, and that's what it comes from.
So beautiful. And I think it really summarizes for us, there is this saying that I've come to now learn in my life, when, things do happen that are beyond our control, that our master always has a master plan for us.
Yeah.
And we should never forget that. And you just really, enriched us with that. So actually leads on to us for the beautiful next question for Jenny. Now, Jenny, I know you shared so many experiences with us, so I'm going to pose this question to you. Why do we often rely on external situations to show gratitude?
So I think it's very easy for us to take Swami for granted sometimes. And I think when these things happen, it's a little reminder that he's there in control and looking after us, and taking very good care of us. A few years ago, I went to Dang in northern India to a medical camp, and we were staying in the grounds of a school for the visually impaired and blind children. And I was helping out with the opticians, but in between I used to sneak out and go and talk to the children. Well, they couldn't speak English, I couldn't speak their language, so I used to do drawings for them. And I'd sit with them and I'd do a drawing of a cat, and I'd say the word, and then they'd repeat it, and then they'd tell me what it was in their language. And we had a bit of fun. And then I went back to work, and two of the little boys came dashing after me with a piece of paper, and they were bringing the pens back, and they gave me this. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
Yes, we can, Jenny.
Yes.
And they had copied my name as best they could and drawn a heart around it. And I was absolutely you know, they were thankful because I was spending time with them, and I thought I'd gone there to help, but actually they had done something for me. And you know, my gratitude, it touched my heart. It was made me cry at the time, actually, because it was so sweet. And those sorts of little things, I think, when your heart's touched, it has a big effect, and I've obviously never forgotten it. You know, and often when things happen, it makes you think, and you go away. And I had a fabulous trip over there, but more because of what these children who had nothing had given to me rather than the other way around.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you bring to mind certain experiences that I've had on medical camps, and you know, many of you, when we do Seva, we realize so much of this is about perspective. I remember one of the first medical camps I'd gone to was in Malawi, and this is before I graduated. And I just remember seeing that there were so many lines of people, you know, mothers, fathers, children, and it was so hot. You know, we've been experiencing this hot weather, and we have a roof over our head, and yet we still find ourselves saying, "Oh, it's so hot today." But these wonderful people would be waiting in the line for maybe 3-4 hours and already have walked miles just to come to a medical camp that they would have heard of. But when they come to see you, they always still have a smile on their face, and you think you're there to help them. But when I remember sitting there triaging and I see that smile on their face, I just melt and think, this is gratitude in a nutshell, you know? So thank you so much, Annie, because you're so right. Often we think, you know, we're going to give something, but Seva gives us so much more. And that is such a beautiful way to show gratitude, isn't it? So I think I really want to move on to our next question. And I think this will resonate with each and every one of us. And I'm going to ask Gayatri Auntie this next question. So your question is, how can we have gratitude even through the most difficult of times?
Right, now you've given, I think, the most difficult question to me. Even after praising your smile, Bijal. Right. Yeah. Again, as I said, if we can think of, like you just said, in the medical camp, if all the children, and as Jenny said, all the blind and visually impaired children can be upbeat, positive, and they can show some gratitude and we can learn from them. I don't think there's anything that we can complain and say difficult times. See, every one of us have gone through good times, bad times, but I don't think, I mean, in my life, I could touch wood, definitely say that if you look at other lives, like the children is in heat, poverty, with nothing, you know, not even proper clothing, no education, and they're still smiling and they still have a sense of gratitude towards their parents, towards God, towards the country. I don't think I'm in any position to say that I've suffered so much that there is no room for gratitude in my life. I don't think anybody can say that, least all me. Because Swami, when I was a student of Swami, Anantapur, Bharati was with me. Bharati is the one, Sagani, who introduced. We were batchmates. She said, she was there in that particular meeting when Swami was walking. We didn't have the Kulwant Hall then. In the 90s, it was before the Kulwant Hall was built. We were sitting there in the sand waiting for Swami to come. And Swami walks in, and then Jayama Madam, our warden, gets up and says, she was the kindest lady that you'd have ever met. I mean, we had the good fortune of being with her. She was also our English teacher, literature teacher, because I did my master's in English. She was my teacher as well. She got up. We were all sat in the red hot sand. It was the same time, July time, Guru Purnima. Parthi gets really hot. And because there was nothing, no covering as well, we were sat in the sun. And then Swami came. She said, Swami, could you please do the distribution? Because Swami was supposed to do some distribution of Vibhuti packets and pens and stuff. He said, could you please hurry up, Swami? The girls are suffering. They're so hot. It is really hot. Girls are finding it difficult to sit in the sun. And then Swami was like, oh God, you and your complaints, Jayama. You're always complaining about something or the other. Are you not grateful that I have come? I have no shoes. I'm walking right in front of you in the red hot sand. I don't have shoes either. I'm also hot. But I'm doing everything for you. And you have all the thing to complain about heat and mosquitoes and whatnot. And he was really cross and he said, don't you have any gratitude? He used the word in Telugu. He said, you don't have any gratitude? See, in olden days, people used to do tapas for a long time to see God, and I'm walking there in front of you. And then you still have complaints. So that really, really brought home a message, not for Jama Madam alone. Poor Jama Madam was trying to protect us. But for all the other students who were there, I was right in the second line. So I could hear it clearly what he was talking to about. And then I knew that, see, this is a lesson to everyone. We keep complaining about not having this, not having that. There's no end to this. Instead of that, be grateful. Make it a part of your life. Like a little prayer, a thank you, contentment, like Jenny said, be content with what you've got. And always teach your children, Balvika's children, all the people you come into contact with, especially children, because it's easier for them to learn. That age, they're really, really like sponges. Whatever you throw at them, they just absorb. So keeping gratitude, don't think of it like a separate, like Pravina Band said so perfectly, it is not a separate topic that you have to think about it once in a year when you go and feed the homeless or when you do a medical camp. It's not like the gratitude is ingrained in you in everything you do. And I don't think we need to really make it, highlight it the way it is. It should naturally flow from us. So what we do, what we say, how we pray, and then it'll go on to our children, not just children, to the society, to the people you interact with, and then it becomes part of your daily routine. And even without knowing, you'll be grateful. And I think that is the best way, instead of giving it a hype. I hope I've made it clear.
Yes,
Vijay, is that
absolutely.
clear
Yeah.
enough?
It's very inspiring, very empowering what you're saying. And I think during these difficult times, when you have obstacles in your life, at that moment when you're going through that difficulty, sometimes it is hard to be grateful unless you've been programming your mind. And that Swami helps us with. After obstacles, we begin to realize, these are just things that are actually helping to cultivate that inner sense of gratitude. And you're right, when you say it's not something that's isolate, it's something that's in every single day, every single moment of our breath. But to get there, to cultivate that, I feel sometimes these obstacles are there to show us that. And I'll share a small experience that Brother Auntie, you reminded me when you were sharing your experience being stuck on the motorway. My experience was a few months actually before I was getting married. I was driving to work on a countryside road, and it's a beautiful countryside road. And I'm driving to work, maybe a little bit worried that I'm getting a little bit late, but nevertheless, just taking my time and getting to work. It was very rainy that day. And unfortunately, I got into a horrific car accident. And it was a head-on collision. And, they say at the moment when you're maybe even going through the last moments of your life, that last breath, to think of God is the best thing. And I still remember when that happened, thinking to Swami, I know I've complained all this time, but this moment, please, Swami, I'm so grateful to you that you've given me this life. Give me this chance and I will live and I'll fight and I will. And it was such a head-on collision that I could have lost my life that day. But Swami, at that moment, when I look back, I've changed my perspective of life. And you talked about the rat race of life. Now it's just about surrendering and appreciating every single day. And this pandemic that we are facing together, we now, I think each one of us value what even the air that we're breathing, how precious that is. And Swami tells us in every single atom, I am in that atom. And so I find myself now in the mornings when I wake up, I say a morning prayer of gratitude and I say, Swami, anything that I'm about to do today, my words, thoughts and deeds, let everything be of your accord. Because just today, to be able to breathe and say your name is such a blessing.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, because everything that you're sharing, I'm sure is resonating with each and every one of us. So I'm going to ask the same question to you, Jenny. have you had an experience in your life that has given you a different perspective of why we need to be grateful? Because we know it's not always so easy.
I've actually had a few, but the one I'm going to share today, it was very difficult for me at the time, but what came out of it was that at the time, I felt Swami's presence. I'd had to go into hospital for a procedure. I was frightened. I was on my own. And before I went, I prayed to Swami and I said, please be the doctor. And when I turned up in the room, I'd taken a little tiny picture with me. And I can't remember whether it was the Satcharita or the Tapavanam, but I took a book with me to read. And in the room, there were two chairs. One was a normal chair and one was a high back chair, you know, with sort of wings to it. And I didn't think about it to start with. And I sat on the bed and I started to read the book. And then I looked at the big chair that got my clothes on it and I thought, that's Swami's chair. I need to take that stuff off. So I put the clothes on the floor, and then I was given I had to have a pre-med thing where they put a needle in your hand, and this nurse came in. She was from somewhere like South America or somewhere. She came in, she put the needle in my hand, and she looked at this little picture on the table. And she just hesitated for a minute, and then she put some extra dressing on my hand to make sure it was all going to be all right. And I thought that was a bit. It was one of those times you think that's a bit strange, but it was very very kind of her. And I had to wait for quite a while, and I carried on reading my book. And then I got taken to this other room, and I am absolutely 100% certain Swami was walking by my side. I didn't see him or anything, but it was like, it was feeling. And afterwards, I just thought, what an amazing, you know, what an amazing thing to happen. But it was an awful situation, but without it, I wouldn't have, you know, I wouldn't have probably prayed so hard and read my books so much. And, you know, I was sort of calling for him really the whole time. And he came, and it was the same week that he had left his mortal coil. And afterwards, which might seem silly to some, but I thought, he's just passed away. He must be really busy, and he still managed to have a little bit of time to come and help me out in my time of need. And I just thought, how lucky am I? You know, it was such a contradiction in the event, considering what was going on. But yeah, he saved me on a few occasions like that. And, you know, and without those times, maybe you wouldn't have such a connection, perhaps.
I feel Swami always shows his presence, always and always. And it's funny, isn't it? It's when we look back on certain events in our life, at that point, we may not even realize why we went through it. And then when we look back, we think, oh, Swami, you already had this plan.
Mm-hmm.
Each and every one of us are his children. And I remember having this discussion with my mom, actually, saying, you know, Mom, whenever I am worried or I've something has happened and I confide in you like a mother, we all confide in Swami. And, you know, as mothers, we would, you know, you would do anything for your children. In the same way, when your heart is aching over even the smallest of things, do we think Swami doesn't feel that? Of course he does. He feels that, and he's always there for us. And, you know, sometimes it feels like we're waiting, but there is this other thing that I've learned, that Sai time is the right time. So sometimes I know he tests our patience, but his timing is always perfect. Let's share an experience from Swami. I know when we're reading the Bhagavad Gita or episodes of the Mahabharata, one thing I realized that Kunti Mata was said to God was, give me obstacles so that I always and always think of you. And that has always resonated with me. One, to have courage to say to God, give me, obstacles so that I can always think of you. But over time, I think it's so evident that having obstacles also gives us our sense of gratitude. So I think let's now go on to our next question while we're waiting from Bravina Auntie to enlighten us with that question. I mean, what does gratitude really mean in a nutshell? Okay, so Gayatri Auntie, I know we've talked about this, but what does it give us? You said it gave you your sense of contentment. What else does it give us? Does it give us, do we get more out of gratitude than we realize? Is it really that important? Or can we go on in life saying, oh, Swami, I surrender to you, but you need to make this happen for me? Or do we need to say, Swami, thank you. Whatever come may be, I'm ready to accept. How should we start to reprogram our minds?
Right. Again, vast topic. I'll try and put it in a nutshell. For me, gratitude is contentment, as I said. And gratitude is just, I think, putting things in perspective, like you said. For example, I met with an accident as well, Vijay, like you said. It was not life-threatening, but I would have lost a limb and ended up in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. I was only 22 and recently married. I still hadn't become a mother, and then I was in a two-wheeler, and then a lorry was backing up onto me. I fell down, and then the man couldn't bother to look at the rear view mirrors. He kept coming back. It was a fully loaded 4-ton lorry, and I was on the floor. The tire came. I was shouting at the top of my voice. He couldn't hear me. It came, and then it stopped right when the tire was touching my knee. It stopped. I said, "Sai Ram," in the loudest voice possible. And then he stopped for some reason and looked at the rear view, and then realized that it was about to crush me. So he came down, and the rest of it is all a Swami's thing. I was coming back from Vrindavan after his Swami's darshan and going back home in Bangalore. This is when it happened. So if you don't give gratitude any definition, don't even think about it. My life is, every moment of it is his offering to him, because I'm alive, breathing, like you said, Bijal, because of him. So there is no set platform, there's no set words, there's nothing that I can say which can give me. The only way I can show is always, like you said, the pandemic now has given me a perspective that today I'm breathing, I'm okay, I'm not in an ICU hooked to a machine. And my husband, being a consultant of the ICU, he comes home with such tales every other day. It's horrific, some of them. So if I think about them, I think at least I'm not doing that. That gives me a perspective, saying that it is always good to have a positive attitude and think somebody else is so much worse than we are. So there is no need to complain. Get on with your life. And I teach my children the same thing, because when the lockdown started, they were full of complaints. Oh, I can't see my friends. It's boring at home. Oh God, we can't go on holiday. It's how it is. I've got a 21-year-old and a 13-year-old. Not a good combination at all. So it's constant complaints. But then when you talk to them and say, look at the people, how they're suffering in India. No food, laborers are moving. Nothing there for them. You've got a comfortable house, food, everything possible, luxuries, and you're still complaining. So when you put things in perspective and keep comparing, that's what I do. But Vijay, again, nobody's perfect. I keep asking Swami as well. I am content, extremely content with what he's given me in life. Still, I keep asking him, not for wealth, small things. You wouldn't believe it. I would ask him for good weather when I'm running. When I go for a run, I say, Swami, please could you see that there's no rain or too much sun? Things like that, which are silly, I know. But then he's my companion. He's my father. So I have to ask him. I'll ask him whether he gives it or not. I do ask him. Maybe it's not right. Maybe it's not wrong. It's wrong. I don't know. But I do involve him in everything that I do. And I do ask him stuff, like even parking place sometimes when I go somewhere. So I please, could you see that there's some parking there for me? I know it sounds silly, but then for me, they're little things. But I don't know whether it's right to mention it here when we're talking about gratitude, but that's how I am. And I'm not saying it's wrong to ask also. I think we've got a liberty to ask Swami everything. He's a father, mother, companion, best friend. Why not ask?
Mm.
What do
I
you
love,
say, Vijay?
yeah, I mean, I love that you're talking about this because it's funny. Just the other day, I was having a dialogue with Swami, and at that moment, you know, there's this. We practice mindfulness, right? We talk about mindfulness, and it's more now. Everyone knows about this mindfulness, but we were learning about this in Balvikas without even realizing it. And just being able to have a conversation with Swami, even when you're driving, what a beautiful, positive way of keeping that constant dialogue with Swami. But one thing I would say, and this has taken some time, and I, like you said, nobody is perfect. But I've come to realize I have no idea what is good for me. I have no idea what I should be praying for most days. I do not know. And so now I find myself saying to Swami, just thank you, Swami. And I'm loving that I can talk to you, that I can feel your presence every day. I'm not going to ask for anything because I don't know what I need. You know what I need. So, but I love that just by asking Swami, you are still having a dialogue, and in everything we should find that positivity, and that keeps us going. That is so important now more than ever. So thank you, because when we are talking about topics that are related to gratitude, everything links and everything is Swami. So Jenny, I'm going to ask you the same topic, the same thing. What is it meant? Because on an individual, it can mean so many things to each one of us. In a nutshell, Jenny, what is gratitude to you? What has it given you?
Well, I was thinking about it this morning. I was meditating about it, trying to sort of come up with something about this sort of question. And what popped in my head was, you know, we, in our lives, we have to deal with our karmas. Swami is sorting everything out for us in his time, not ours. So what am I worrying about? And why am I concerned? He's in control, you know, and I thought, how cool is that? I'm really happy with that. And I felt this sort of overwhelming feeling of peace at the time. And I, you know, and that feeling, and I thought that's gratitude. For me, gratitude is a feeling. And I have a quote here from that Swami said, when your kerchief falls down, like your handkerchief, and somebody picks it up and gives it to you, you say thanks. It is not his kerchief that he has given, it is your kerchief. Even then, why do you offer thanks? And he says, that is gratitude. And I thought, yeah, it is, but it's nothing physical, you know, what is it? And it's just an internal feeling that hopefully comes from the heart.
Yeah. It's very difficult to put into words such a profound feeling that I know each and every one of us experience on a daily basis. So let's see, where have we got to? So we've talked about contentment. We've talked about how Swami is just encompassing in everything that we do, and that no matter what, he has a plan for each and every one of us. And I find myself just every day when I'm, you know, we're not perfect, none of us are, we're all going through our internal battles, going through maybe nervousness, anxieties, uncertain times. But let's always just take a moment to say, thank you. to Swami, because when we are not even thinking about ourselves, he always is. And I know it's difficult to train our mind sometimes. You know, Swami says we have this monkey mind that may be chasing after Maya. So even if it's practical things that we can do. So practical tips, I think, are so, so important. So one of my practical tips that I used to do, and I feel like now more than ever I should do it, is I used to carry a little pebble. And it's a little pebble that used to say, Aham Brahmasmi, I am divine, and that divinity is within me. And it used to remind me that whenever I used to feel worried or anxious about something, I used to carry it with me in my pocket, in my bag. And I used to just take it out just to feel that everything that is happening is not separate, that we are connected, and that there is something that's going on, perhaps I don't understand, in this bigger role in this universe, and to have that gratitude to Swami. And so I'm going to ask each one of you, Jenny and Gayatri Auntie and Bravin Auntie, if you're there, what are finally your tips to each one of us, practical tips that we can enrich our lives with?
For me, it's to it's when you say thank you, is to feel it and mean it. To love everybody no matter what, you know. And if we follow Swami's teachings, then, you know, isn't that a way of showing him our gratitude? Because he's asking us of things, and by fulfilling that, you know, we're appreciating that anything that he says is for our benefit. And I talk to him all the time, you know, and I think it's keeping that connection with him, making sure that we don't, I know we're one. It's easy to say we are one and everything, but I think we need to make sure that we think of him all the time. I think that's essential.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Gayatri Auntie, while we're just sorting for Auntie's audio, please could you share with us some tips that you have found useful?
Yeah, personally, again, as Jenny said, brilliantly said, mean it when you say thank you, and then keep Swami close, speak to him constantly like I do. When I'm running, he's always with me. He's always running faster than me though. It's not fair. He's always with me. I'm talking. I don't feel lonely. I run on some of the places that I go on my own are quite lonely, but I don't feel that because I feel his presence always. I feel he's always there to protect me, take care of me, and I always think I'm special to him. I don't know why, but I do think that. It's maybe my imagination, but I always think I'm special. Swami would not let that happen to me. Stuff like that. Sometimes it's blind faith, and it keeps me going. It kept me going for so many years. And it keeps me going. And it's all a matter of personal faith, Bijou. You take it differently. Jenny might have a different take. I have a different take. All of us. But we all have one thing in common. We're all grateful to Swami. We think of Swami all the time. And we know and surrender to his divine plan. And for me, another most important thing, I know the organization is not always one of the things that people expect. Because some of the people who come to the organization, they say, gosh, there are lots of politics here, blah, blah, blah. You know, it goes on. And there's people everywhere. In Parthi, people are people everywhere. But I think to be involved in Swami's organization, to do something for Bal Vikas, Seva, to be actively participating in bhajans, whatever you're good at, or in whatever capacity, is crucial. Because Swami isn't there bodily, like he's left his mortal coil. The most important thing for us now is to surge forth his message and his organization. Keep it going the best possible way. I know people can find pretexts not to be involved, but I say just ignore everybody else. Come for Swami. Do it for Swami. People might say things. It might hurt someone's feelings. Yes, it is understandable. People can be mean, but just leave that. Come for Swami. Dedicate yourself for Swami, and good doing for the organization is, for me, the best way of showing gratitude. It may not be for somebody else. For me and my children, I actively involve them in everything we do. Seva to Balvikas to bhajans to Rudram chanting to everything. And that
Thank
gives
you.
me a lot of satisfaction. And I
Me
think
too.
that's the best thing I can do. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I want to thank, on behalf of everybody, each one of you, our panelists, who are enriched with so many experiences. And I'm sure your experiences have resonated with each and every one of us. So I'll conclude today's lovely discussion on flip your attitude and show gratitude to our Swami. We are so grateful to you for bringing each and every one of us, your children, to engage in this beautiful satsang. Let's surrender to him and enjoy his master plan. Sai Ram.
Sai Ram.
Bye, Ram.